Today's episode is brought to you by the good people over at Sucker Free University. On today's episode, I really want to get in tune with it and really touch topics on being self-aware, what self-awareness is as an individual, not as a race, a religion. Self-awareness as an individual first, because with me, everything is self first for anything. Self. I don't care what. You worry about yourself first, and once you take care of self, you'll be more productive and more prosperous for whatever else you contributing your energy to. But everything starts with self and who you got to be. Number one thing about when you're in tune with self, you got to be aware of who you are, being self-aware. So if you was to Google self-awareness, it'll tell you something like conscious knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires. Conscious knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires. And that little definition to touch, that's ground level. That's the grassroots for being self-aware, pretty much. Your feelings, your motives, your characters, your feelings. That's pretty much. And then you dig into to get to the mastery level of self-awareness. In my opinion, is to take each one of those parts of the definition and dig deep and figure and get to the highest understanding spiritually of that and knowledgeably and knowledgeably of that. I'm saying being aware of who you are, knowing what you're doing, knowing who you're around, and know your triggers, and when you're around certain people, around certain things, and how you'll react, and how you can always and to always be aware, not consciously, physically, spiritually, be always aware and control yourself. That's one of the things for me. My personal self definition of being self-aware is to be more so in control of your feelings and your emotions, or maybe not so much to be in direct control, but knowing your triggers that you can't control about your feelings and your emotions and your certain triggers. So if you know you might be strong certain things when it comes to your feelings and emotions, because I like to touch on feelings and emotions because that's like the grassroots for everything. That's where you make your critical decisions, your premeditated decisions. A lot of that stuff comes off of your emotions, whether you want to believe it or not. Sometimes is nature, because you're not really fully self-aware and you don't take the time to think, and you just go off of natural instinct. And when you go off of natural instinct, you're going off 100% emotion. When you're going off of natural, you always want to use your critical thinking, which should be used off of thinking, not emotion. But a lot of the times when you're uneducated and lacking self-knowledge and unaware of self, your critical thinking is still used in on some emotional type stuff. So being self-aware is taking the time to not think about the narratives that people in society created about being self-aware, but taking time to go and learn yourself. Not what people tell you about yourself, because that really don't matter. It matters, but to a certain degree when you're only doing certain things. The whole thing about self, not mastery, don't worry about mastering yourself, just worry about understanding who you are. You got to take time to yourself, and you got to realize there's certain things about yourself you're just not going to like. Straight like that. It's just certain things you're just not gonna like. You gotta accept that. That's a part of who you are. It's certain things about myself I'd be like, I don't like it, but that's who I am, and I know how to work with myself around certain situations that'll bring that out of me. Part of being self-aware and self-understanding. Understanding who you are as far as your triggers. Everything I talk about come from me personally, and I know I'm not an extraordinary person when it comes to certain things, so I try to project that out, and it's like therapeutic. We all work with each other through the feedback and the, good or bad comments. It is what it is. I learn from it all. We learn from it all. That's a part of being self-aware and not being so emotional and knowing everybody's flawed. So when somebody tell you some real shit, especially when it's not coming from somebody who don't know you, they probably, you got to take it in, especially if you on the road and on the track to strive to be a better person. every second, every minute of the day. Because it ain't about taking big leaps. I'm not about the big leaps. I'm about the little gradual steps that turn into big leaps. Because 9 times out of 10 you never get. It's okay to aim high. We all aim high, but what's the plan to get to the high? You can't have high goals and not a serious plan to implement. You can't say you want this and have no plan to get it or have no systems in play to get it. You got to be aware of yourself. Some people, everybody want to be a boss, but you got to understand everybody not a boss. You know what I'm saying? You got to, it may not be your time to be a boss. You got to know how to play the position of life to get what you need to play the position and get what you want. Everybody not a boss. You might be a better worker. You might be better at running systems than creating the system. And you might be in the way because you see somebody else doing it, and you might think because they doing it, you can do it. And you being in the way, it's no progress. Sometimes you gotta let people play their strengths, but you always play to your strengths. Your strengths might not necessarily be what works for the next person. And you put yourself in a weird looking situation trying to be the next person because you always expose your hand, especially when you're not successful. So being self-aware always double backs to, I'm just taking and keeping on being self-aware, always knowing who you are and excelling in what you do and sticking to what you do and work on what you're not good at, but don't focus on that. Focus on what you good at. And then when you stick to that, you got more time to work on things that you need to improve on. Even the things that you self-aware and you good at, you need to improve on, but you always got to work on self. Everything starts with self. And like I said, not the narrative that society tell you about being this type of race or this, man, fuck that shit. It's about you. You know what I'm saying? We are who we are. We just in the vessel they say anyway. So the race, it is what it is. But who you are inside determines on how they perceive you as a race, as a religion, as an organization. It's all who that who you are inside comes out when you're around people. That spirit, that energy comes out. So you could bullshit all you want. It's always gonna come out. So always being self-aware and playing your position of who you are and not who they are or who they want you to be. Peer pressure is a motherfucker. You can go through your whole life being under the gun of peer pressure, don't even realize it until you get time to be by yourself and be in your own zone. You know what? A lot of time when that situation come when you at the worst point of your life. You know what I'm saying? When you at the worst point of your life, when nobody don't want to deal with you, when it's all bad, and you just got yourself, and you either forced to deal with yourself, or you can literally go crazy. And that's when a lot of people, when people go through bad things in life, they not self-aware of who they are and how great they really are. I mean, everything they went through was luck, and it's hard for them to cope with that. So now this when the mental health come in at, and you know, it be all bad. Instead of realizing who you are and what your capabilities is and go right back at it. You know what I'm saying? Because, what goes up is guaranteed to come down. And now it's up to you on your way down if you crash or you land. That's all on you. You know what I'm saying? But, what goes up must come down. And what stay down, what go down don't got to stay down. Everything is up to you. You know what I'm saying? But, that's what lack of not knowing who one is, who thou is, leads to all of these things. Not being self-aware. Not being sucker-free. Trying to follow the trends. Trying to do what was in. And, to a certain degree, that's okay. But you got to always know who you are and what you are good at. Because when the trend is over and you stuck and nothing's going on, you got to always resort back to who you are. You got to always have skills, trades, hobbies, things that you could help release certain energies to get back, recycle energy, positive energy. You got to always be on the up and up. You can't just be worried about what's going on the outside. Sometimes you gotta heal on the inside. You gotta worry about what's on the inside before you could do anything on the outside. Being a father, a husband, anything. You gotta worry about what's going on the inside. Sometimes it's wounds on the inside that can't be healed, but you could patch them up to where you can move on and deal with life and be a better person to society. You know what I'm saying? You can't worry about social or political problems when you got more self problems than anything, and that's a big problem what's going on in society. Everybody worried about the overall agenda, and overall, that sounds good that we as a people, we got to stick together and da-da-da. But know why it's hard for us to be together? Because our shit ain't together. How could, if your shit ain't together, ain't today, and we not talking about back, if your shit not together today, you can't even think about a movement or doing this. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. So I figure people need to be more aware and figure out what works for them. Going to work might be the best thing for everybody. Well, not for everybody, for the majority of the people. Being aware, going to work, learning that system, benefiting from that system, and then you can always do something on the side. Being self-aware keep you from putting yourself in dark situations with females, with hating ass people, period. You know this person at the job or in life just naturally just a weird person. He or she got bad energy. You don't put yourself in a situation where they could bite down and you gotta prove that that's a loss for you. Because anytime you gotta show aggression, it's automatic. You taking one, an L. Whether you think in your mind you got the upper hand, you never want to show aggression, and definitely not in public. That's always a weakness. But us having lack of knowledge of self, if we really understood ourselves and really was comfortable with ourselves, we would realize the weakest thing you could do is be aggressive and try to fight back with anger and aggression. That's the weakest thing you could do when you're in tune with yourself spiritually. When you on the up and up with yourself, you realize certain things. Certain things is worth a pass. You know on the inside what ain't worth a pass. But the 9 times out of 10 of things we go through on a day-to-day basis it's nothing. It's stuff that really warrants a pass. But us being who we are, not knowing ourselves, confused about life, don't know what's going on because we not in tune with ourselves enough to be comfortable with what's going on for the moment and plan for the future. See, if we plan for the future and get off of what's going on so much, stop using social media as a platform to expose and entertain ourselves and use it to entertain on a monetary level and be more aware. So nowadays it's ways we can make money on social media, just being who you is, learning who you is, and you can make money. I don't care if you like digging up worms, fishing. It's all type of things we could do out here to make life more tolerable on all levels if we just knew who we are. Instead of watching what he do and trying to, it look good, he doing good or she doing it good, so I'm gonna emulate that. Then when it don't work, that's where the hate come from. It'd be less hatred if we was more in tune with ourselves. All the hatred comes from person envy. You have no time to envy yourself when you in tune with yourself and you got a direct goal of what you're trying to accomplish and not worried about what he or she or they doing. Be happy for yourself. And that's it. That's the best way to sum up being self-aware, knowing who you are and figuring who you are. A lot of us don't want to go into that depths. We know each other, we know ourselves, of course, because we in this vessel. But at the end of the day, we don't be wanting to go that deep because we know. A lot of people know, man. You just might don't like yourself, but that's what the part of yourself you got to deal with in order to get forward in life. You might got to go through depression. You have to go through depression sometimes, maybe. You got to go through this and that, people turning their back on you for you to understand who you is. That way, to get back, to come back, not necessarily get back, the comeback is just like, it's more humbling. You ain't coming back arrogant, but you coming back arrogant in a humble way. But when you're not in tune with yourself spiritually, I mean, they say you got 5 senses, but everything in your body you can be used as a sense. You got so much going on with your body and in your mind that you can really make that work for you. Then once that's working for you, you feel good on the inside physically. That shit project into life. Now everything comes your way and you going and you just in abundance. So that's just one thing I wanted to talk about. This is my first episode 1. We're gonna have a lot of different topics, but that's just something I want to talk about, and one of my main things, one of my personal pillars, being self-aware. So I take all feedback. Let me know it's good or bad, and we could go at it. You know what I mean? I'm always good for a healthy back and forth. So Leave it in the comment sections. Let me know what y'all think. It's episode 1. 1 of infinity. Sucker Free University. Stay tuned.